26 July, UAP hearings had 3 previous credible military officers saying that the U.S. has more data, more video evidence on hand than it is saying. All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office continues to state vehemently that they have no credible evidence of extraterrestrial craft. This video examines 3 historic cases where, again, we have credible military officers saying the U.S. has more data than it lets on. And in this case, high-quality video evidence.
Chris Lado, welcome to Lado Files.
This is from the Robertson panel after Blue Book 1953, comments and suggestions of UFO panel. The panel members were impressed with the lack of sound data in a great majority of case histories. Among the case histories of significant sightings discussed in detail were the following: Bellefontaine, Ohio, 1 August 1952. Tremonton, Utah, 2 July 1952. That's the one we will cover. After review and discussion of these cases and about 15 others in less detail, the panel concluded that reasonable explanations could be suggested for most sightings, and by deduction and scientific method, it could be induced, given additional data, that other cases might be explained in a similar manner. So this is from 1953. Basically, most of the cases can be easily explained, of course, easily explained. What do they say for the not easy to explain cases? They say explicitly that using basic induction, basically assuming that they can't be possible and using the scientific method that they can't be possible, we can show that they're not possible. Although I'll show you in this video that Tremonton video is pretty amazing. It shows 12 Tic Tacs. It was the opinion of one of the panel members that the saucer problem had been found to be different in nature from the detection and investigation of German V-1 and V-2 guided missiles prior to their operational use in World War II. In this 1943-1944 intelligence operation Crossbow, there was excellent intelligence, And by June 1944, there was material evidence of the existence of hardware obtained from crashed vehicles in Sweden. These crashed vehicles are ghost rockets. Thousands of these, up to 2,000 sightings were reported in Sweden. I talked to the main researcher on ghost rockets. Interesting is that Hap Arnold actually went to Sweden after one of these supposed events. Allegedly, no hardware has ever been found, although we see right here they say that hardware was found. There was material evidence of the existence of hardware obtained from crashed vehicles in Sweden. Where is this information? Please hit the like button if you do like this content. Share the video to get more information out, and then to get exclusive content, give ideas for videos such as this one, and support the channel. Go to patreon.com/Chris Lado. You can also support the channel on YouTube through YouTube memberships and get exclusive perks, early access videos if you're a flight lead or above. But thanks again just for being here. Let's get to the video. One of the panel members in his presentation showed how he had eliminated each of the known and probable causes of sightings, leaving him extraterrestrial as the only one remaining in many cases. His background as an aeronautical engineer and technical intelligence officer could not be slighted. However, the panel could not accept any of the cases cited by him because they were raw, unevaluated reports. Especially if you think it can't be possible and you just immediately rule it out. Meanwhile, as I show in these next 3 clips here, that the US government does know about this information and most likely is investigating it, at least parts of it, are keeping this information from the public. Let's get to this first interview. Amazing interview. Here we go. Tremonton, UFO.
The exact date of his sighting was July 2nd at 11 a.m., Mountain Standard Time.
I was driving on U.S. Highway 30 South with my wife and our son Delbert and our daughter Ann. We were on our way from Washington, D.C. to Portland, Oregon on vacation before reporting to my new duty station at the Aviation Supply Depot, Naval Supply Center, Oakland, California. About 7 miles after we passed through Tremonton, Utah, my wife noticed a group of objects in the sky which she could not identify. I pulled over to the side of the road, stopped, got out, looked up and saw the objects. There were about 12 of them in a rough formation proceeding in a westerly direction. They were like nothing I'd ever seen before, although I've logged some 2,000 hours in the air. They were identical in appearance.
How would you describe these objects?
Like two saucers, one inverted over the other. I had no means of judging the altitude. It appeared to me to be about the size of B-29s at 10,000 feet.
Did you photograph them immediately?
I watched the objects for a few moments before getting my camera out of the suitcase. Then I lost more time getting film out of the second suitcase and loading the camera. When I first saw the objects, they were almost overhead. By the time I had the camera ready to go, they had moved to a considerably greater distance.
What kind of a camera did you use?
A 16mm Bell & Howell film auto load master with the 3-lens turret. I selected a 3-inch lens and set it on f8 and focused at infinity.
Did you think of using slow motion?
No, the camera was set on 16 frames per second, and in the excitement of the moment, I didn't think to shoot at a greater rate, although that would have improved the coverage. I centered the viewfinder on the objects and made the first shot. Then I decided if the sky were darker, the objects would show better. So I stopped the lens down to f16 and continued photographing. This proved to be a mistake, as the quality of the film would have been better had I left it at f8.
Did these objects remain together in a group at all times?
No, toward the end, one object reversed its course and proceeded away from the rest of the group. I held the camera still and allowed this single object to pass through the field of view, picking it up again later in its course.
Did this single object return to the rest of the group?
No, I allowed it to pass through the field of view of the camera 2 or 3 times, and then it disappeared.
In what direction?
Over the eastern horizon.
What did you do then?
I turned, swinging the camera just in time to see the rest of the group disappear over the western horizon.
What was the weather?
The weather was bright and cloudless.
Visibility good?
The visibility was excellent.
How does this film you shot compare with what you saw with your naked eye? You have studied the film.
Yes, I've studied it. I'm very disappointed. The film falls far short of showing what I saw with the naked eye, due to the delay in getting the camera started and my error in exposure. If I'd had this camera in the seat beside me, loaded and ready to go, there'd be no need for questions. The Air Force would have the answer.
What is your full name, please?
Delbert Clement Newhouse.
And you are on active duty with the Navy?
Yes, sir, I am.
What is your official Navy rank?
My title is Chief Photographer. I'm a commissioned warrant officer, United States Navy.
How long have you been in the service?
21 years.
Now, is there anything you can add to the description of these objects?
They had a bright silvery color.
Can you describe some particular detail?
They had a metallic appearance. They seemed to be made of some kind of polished metal.
My biggest points for the Tremonton UFO case is they analyzed it. I mean, the guy taking the video was literally a professional photographer. That was his job. He's an intel analyst, military officer. So what would he have reason to lie? And the analysis determined that these could not be birds, okay, which is what they said. The panel decided they were seagulls after watching a video of seagulls being videoed. But the actual analysis determined it couldn't be birds based on the range, right? Because if it's closer than that, you would see some sort of detail, I'm guessing. But the analysis with over 1,000 man-hours, right, from the Air Force determined that these couldn't be birds, couldn't be aircraft, and couldn't be some sort of strange anomalies, atmospheric attenuations, or issues with the sensor. So they determined it. And based on the year, 1952, This also could not be drones. So that rules out drones. So what else is it going to be? What else is there? That's the extraterrestrial option. That's the extraterrestrial option that they just couldn't bring themselves to actually consider.
This is the Utah film as it was originally photographed.
The image structure and maneuvers definitely eliminate any kind of known aircraft.
This is where Chief Photographer Newhouse, in his excitement, changed exposure. He believed that by changing density and giving the film more contrast, he could clarify the objects. The single object that reversed its course. The bounce is due to handheld camera. Now we study the action of one section of the film. We stop the action. We move in.
Within a 5-mile range, aircraft could be determined. In excess of 5 miles, the speeds are greater than aircraft can achieve, except in straight-line speed runs. The movement here follows an elliptical or circular pattern. Microscopic examination reveals that the objects are well focused. Their size varies from 1/6 to 1/10 the size of the moon, as it appears to the naked eye. Their form is circular and sometimes elliptical. This fits the commonly used flying saucer description.
Observe the object in the upper left corner. We move in to study the action. The object upper left will go out of frame on widescreen projection. Observe the motion of the two objects upper right as we rock them back and forth. Now we move over and up on the frame to make a closer study of the object in the upper left corner.
Examine this object closely. Compare it with those objects you saw in the Montana film. These films were taken approximately 2 years apart, hundreds of miles apart.
We drop back to the original perspective and resume. Now the section of the film where photographer Newhouse changed exposure.
Weather conditions, together with the persistence and motion of the formations, eliminate the possibility of atmospheric mirages. Photogrammetric experiments have shown that the images cannot be associated with any kind of birds at any distance.
Stop. Now forward again. Stop. We drop back to original perspective. Now once again and for the last time, the Utah film.
The objects cannot be associated with any known balloon observation.
My biggest points for the Tremonton UFO case is they analyzed it. I mean, the guy taking the video was literally a professional photographer. That was his job. He's an intel analyst, military officer. So what would he have reason to lie? And the analysis determined that these could not be birds, okay, which is what they said. The panel decided they were seagulls after watching a video of seagulls being videoed. But the actual analysis determined it couldn't be birds based on the range, right? Because if it's closer than that, you would see some sort of detail, I'm guessing. But the analysis with over 1,000 man-hours, right, from the Air Force determined that these couldn't be birds, couldn't be aircraft, and couldn't be some sort of strange anomalies, atmospheric attenuations, or issues with the sensor. So they determined it. And based on the year, 1952, this also could not be drones. So that rules out drones. So what else is it going to be? What else is there? That's the extraterrestrial option. That's the extraterrestrial option that they just couldn't bring themselves to actually consider. Okay, this next case is from Gordon Cooper. Gordon Cooper was an astronaut, amazing person. He was commissioned into the Air Force in 1949 serviced as a fighter pilot until 1956, and then that's when he became a test pilot. And he was selected as an astronaut in 1959. So in 1957 is when he actually saw the video that I'll talk about here shortly. In Cooper's autobiography, Leap of Faith, co-authored with Bruce Henderson, he recounted his experiences with the Air Force and NASA, along with his efforts to expose an alleged UFO conspiracy theory. Cooper claimed to have seen his first UFO while flying over West Germany in 1951. He saw them up above what normal aircraft could fly at, several flying saucers, he said. And then the video was taken on May 3, 1957, when Cooper was at Edwards Air Force Base. That's a test base. He had a crew set up an Ascanian cinetheodolite, is a photographic instrument for collection of trajectory data. So this is like a telescope that can track objects. He had a crew set up that precision theodolite landing system on a dry lake bed. This theodolite system could take pictures at 30 frames per second as an aircraft landed. Cooper explains in this interview what his crew saw and videoed. The two men out on that dry creek lake bed. Check it out here.
I read also in doing research for this interview, there apparently was an incident that happened at Edwards Air Force Base. There was a film crew filming something. They came to you. They said, we've got something on film. It was really neat. And could you explain what happened?
Yeah, I had a film crew working for me on a project I was doing to put a precision landing system in on the edge of the dry lake bed. And they were filming the various stages of the installation. And a small saucer apparently flew overhead and put down some landing gear and landed out on the dry lake bed, only about 50 yards out. And these were old pro cameramen who were used to flying in all kinds of vehicles to take all kinds of pictures. And so they picked up their cameras and started over toward it, and going to get some close-ups. And with that, it lifted up, put the gear back in, and at a very high rate of speed disappeared. So they came in to tell me what happened. I told them to get over to the lab and develop the film immediately. And I would go and look in the book, regulation book, and see what you're supposed to do, who you have to call to report these kind of incidents, which I did. And by the time they got back with the film, there was a higher and higher and higher ranked man preceding the last one, assuring me that I had to get those negatives into a pouch, and that they had made arrangements already to get our commanding general's airplane reserved and take the films to Washington, which I guess happened.
Did you ever see the film?
I saw the negatives, yeah.
And what did you see on the negatives?
They were great pictures. Sure, they would have made great pictures from the negative.
And what was it, a small, large?
Fairly small saucer. It was hard to tell what size it was just in the picture, but it was a saucer-shaped vehicle.
And you said it had legs?
It had landing gear.
What color was it?
Silver color.
So what do you think happened to the film? I mean, what?
I don't know. If I knew that, I'd be a very wise man.
I've seen Gordon Cooper give this account several times, and it doesn't change. He basically got the video from the men. They said it was recorded. They saw it, a flying saucer overhead, right? Flew overhead and then landed with 3 telescoping legs. They have the high quality video. That's going to be a high quality video in there. Gordon Cooper saw it with his own eyes. He saw the negatives, so you can actually look through the negatives back in the day. And he saw exactly what they accounted was a flying saucer come, land, telescoping legs, and then take off and leave. That is amazing if you consider that. And where did that film go? So this is an example where definitely the film, based on accounts, the film went to somewhere in the Pentagon. He just kept calling to higher levels. Where did that film go? Who saw it? Where is it now? Where is the film? But the film went to the government, despite all their claims that they don't have any credible evidence of extraterrestrial life. How do you explain a flying saucer like that? Okay, and then the final account. This one's amazing. Goes to Bob Jacobs. This is the final count. I made a full video. You can check it out on YouTube. UFO shot down an ICBM. Dr. Robert Jacobs, uncovered it. This is from the Portugal News. I wrote this article actually back in 23 August 2022. So you can check that out on the Portugal News. Bob Jacobs was in charge of a 100-man unit from 1963 to 1966, responsible for photographing and videotaping top-secret intercontinental ballistic missile tests. Stationed in what is now Vandenberg Space Force Base near Los Angeles, California, his boss, Major Mansman, asked him to install a new super long-range video camera system north in Big Sur. This was another theodolite system, right? This is a optical system, passive, so it's not sending out information, just receiving information, that he was ordered to go and install in Big Sur to watch an intercontinental ballistic missile test. What he found on that test was amazing, and what happened to the film is even more amazing. So I have those two interviews now. Links to all these interviews is in the description, so please check out the full videos when you get a chance. But here we go to Bob Jacobs' interview. It's amazing. Check it out.
We watched that stage burn out. We watched the second stage burn out. We watched the third stage burn out. And into the frame came something else. It flew into the frame like this, and it shot a beam of light at the warhead, which is represented by my thumb here. Now, remember, all this stuff is flying at several thousand miles an hour. So this thing fires a beam of light at the warhead, hits it, and then this thing flies up like this. Meanwhile, we're all going like this, fires another beam of light, goes around like this, we're going like this, fires another beam of light, goes down like this, fires another beam of light, and then flies out the way it came in. And the warhead tumbles out of space. Now, I saw that. I don't give a goddamn what anybody else says about it. I saw that on film.
This is during that interview with the guys in the gray suits. Lieutenant Jacobs, says Major Manson, that was his boss, also corroborated all of his accounts. Were you guys screwing around out there? No, sir, Bob Jacobs said. Well, then what was that? Manson said. Looks to me like we've got a UFO, sir, Jacobs said. You are never to say that again. As far as you're concerned, this never happened. You understand? Mansman said. I love this additional tidbit, right? As Jacobs walking towards the door, Major Mansman says to him, if you're ever being tortured over this and you have to give them something, tell them it was laser tracking. Laser tracking. Bob Jacobs is still alive. Man, I would love to see him in a hearing. He's been saying it's the truth for years. How validating would it be for him to get up there in front of a Congress and give an oath and say that, yeah, this actually happened? That would be amazing.
I'll just read a little bit here. We knew the missile nose cone size, but could not compare since did not know how far from the missile the object was from the missile at the time of the beam release. The shape was classic disc. The center seemed to be raised, bubble. Not sure any ports or slits could be seen, but was stationary or moving slightly, floating over the entire lower saucer shape, which was glowing and seemed to be rotating slowly at the point of beam release. Okay, Dr. Jacobs, any final words?
No. I could tell a couple of tales about the further cover-up. Let me just talk, because it's kind of funny. One of the researchers who contacted me was Lee Graham, who worked for one of the missile manufacturing companies in Los Angeles. He was quite interested in UFOs. He pursued the things throughout his lifetime. So he contacted me, and I told him my story, and then he went to verify what I had told him. He contacted the Air Force to inquire about Lieutenant Robert M. Jacobs. They told him there was no such Lieutenant Robert M. Jacobs, nor had there ever been. He went to Vandenberg. He said he asked them if there had been a Lieutenant Robert M. Jacobs as officer in charge of optical instrumentation in the 1369th Photo Squadron. He was told no such officer ever existed. He pursued his research. He wondered if there had been a missile launch on September 14th, 1964. He was told there was no such missile launch ever taking place. We continued his investigation, and finally the Air Force had to admit that, well, yes, there had been a Lieutenant Robert M. Jacobs, and yes, he was officer in charge of photo-optical instrumentation at Vandenberg, and yes, there was a missile launch on the date in question. When Lee filed a Freedom of Information Act request to get a copy of the film, he was told no such film existed. And let me verify that it probably doesn't, because there's been some controversy over whether I'm telling the truth, whether Major Mansman is telling the truth, and I assure you that we are. He did. He is passed on, unfortunately. And what we know is that the two guys in gray suits who were in Major Mansman's office that day were with one of the government agencies that are all alphabetized. We believe it was the CIA. They took the reel of film from Major Mansman, they reeled it down, and they cut off, snipped off the bit of the film that had the encounter on it. They gave Major Mansman back the rest of the film, and they said to him, "We don't need to remind you of a security breach, do we?" He said, "No, sir." And they walked out of his office with the film in hand. Major Mansman reported how many people had seen the film.
And that would show there's another film that the US government has. These are just 3 cases. Go back to Delbert, the original video. He has the videos. And if you look at the actual Project Blue Book printout, if you look at their actual results, it looks exceedingly, shockingly similar to the same sort of reports, analysis that we're getting now. They're saying the exact same things from 1952 to 2022. I mean, 70 years. The question is, what does the US government actually know? Because it looks like they know a lot more than they are letting on. We had three officers come and say that. Graves, Fravor, and Grush. Now 3 military officers. And if we go back, this is nothing new. Okay, we can even go back further and show that Delbert made the claim back in 52. Then you have Gordon Cooper. He's had 2 supposed incidents where one, he sent up video, high quality video evidence. And then you have Bob Jacobs in 63. How do you explain those? And Bob Jacobs is before we had laser tracking, and Delbert is before we had drones, as well as 57. How are you going to have drones do that for Gordon Cooper? So I think this just confirms to me that the US definitely has more data, more videos that they are not letting on. They're not letting out. Christopher Mellon has said we need to get this data out. They have satellite data. They have video data. Where is it all being kept? Why is it being kept secret from us? And when can we get this information out? Thanks so much for watching. Please smash that like button, share this video, and subscribe to get future notifications when I release videos. If you want additional content, exclusive content, and to actually be a part of the team and help with this idea, it was an idea from a patron as well as the previous video, then go to patreon.com/Chris Lato, become a part of the team for only $5 a month, as well as YouTube memberships. At YouTube memberships, you get exclusive videos as well as early access as well. Have a great day. Peace.